Welcome,
Welcome.
everyone. welcome to Dark Mother Daughters. We are your hosts. I'm Lady Drasmin.
And I am DragonJedi44, also known as Allison.
Yes. Welcome to this live, unscripted conversation exploring lineage, shadow, rage, embodied power, devotion, and intelligence of the body. We speak from lived experience to witness what is present and alchemize in real time. We will speak openly about today's goddess, who our beautiful, lovely Dragon Jedi will introduce here in a moment. And then we will take questions and close with a grounded integration to support your nervous system. Whether you are here live or catching the replay, allow yourself to land here fully and be in your body. Let us begin.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Dark Mother Daughters. This is episode number 6 out of 12 episodes we are doing. We are halfway through. I can't even believe that. I felt like just the other day we were brainstorming this, and here we are 50% into it. And we have had some amazing conversations. So please do go back and watch the replays if you have not already. And I'd like to say a little bit about what is it to be a dark mother daughter. So we have talked about the dark mother as the dark goddess, mother goddess. Many goddesses are dark mothers, and dark not as an evil or negative, but dark as in withstanding darkness, ability to alchemize and transmute darkness, ability to stand in the face of evil and not feel fear, to be fearless and fierce, and an advocate and a protector, and one of a moral compass to bring justice and balance to chaos, one who holds others accountable. So, we are talking about Goddess Astarte tonight, and I will get into her a little bit. Before I get into Astarte, Drasmin, did you want to say a little bit more of an introduction about who we are, what we do, anything else that you want to share before we move on to Astarte?
I feel the God is ready to come through, but yeah, I'll do a little intro for those of you who are new here. I am Aleph, also known as Lady Drasmin. I'm a poet, alchemist, and priestess, and my speciality is in quantum linguistics and nervous system engineering. I have been working intentionally with the dark goddesses for almost 2 decades, although she has always been present as a fierce protectress of me through the darkness that I faced in my childhood. And in fact, Lady Astarte is the one who came through and worked through me to liberate me from my prison type life, childhood in India almost 20 years ago. So, I'd never really put a name to the goddess until I met the beautiful Allison here a few years ago, and Allison was the one who actually was very encouraging of us started bringing being in our conversation. So I'm looking forward to your perspectives and insights and story. And the Dark Mother truly ultimately helps us in reclaiming our authority, our autonomy, our sovereignty. The darkness, the darkness are really just boundaries, and boundaries are protection. Boundaries are what allow life to continue to be life. And so again, as you know, to close my little intro, as Allison shared, the darkness is not evil. It is what protects the light.
100%. Well said. Well said. Thank you. Beautiful. And I do love that it was a few years ago when we first started talking and I brought up Astarte to you, and I remember how she really did resonate with you as I shared information about her. And she is just, out of all the goddesses that I have come across, read about, remembered, I want to say remembered, because I know there's past life connections there. She is personally one of my favorites. And I'll get into a little bit as to why. But before I do, I'll say a little bit about myself. So on TikTok, I am a sorceress. If you look at my content at DragonJedi44 is my handle. I have specific incantations and magical rituals and different ideas to inspire people to reclaim their power, to reclaim what was lost, what was stolen, what was hijacked, what was bound. I'm here to assist with breaking the binding spells, the dark spells, the evil magic that's been done to the collective over the centuries. Um, and where Astarte came in for me is when I started to learn about binding. I was walking through Washington, D.C., and the message came in very clearly that the goddesses, plural, the goddesses have been placed in binding spells. That was the download that I got. And then I asked, well, by like who? Like who would bind, who would dare, who would have the audacity to bind a goddess? And King Solomon and Freemasonry came in, which I knew nothing about either one, to be honest. I thought Freemasons like built stone walls. That's all I knew about them. I thought they built stone walls. I didn't know that there was like a whole fraternity of them. I didn't know that they practiced magic and ceremonial magic and ritual magic. And I certainly did not know that they perpetuated Solomonic magic. Um, and so I started learning about Astarte's past. She was the consort, and this is so, so, so relevant to right now with everything that is being disclosed, with all of the truth that is coming out. Astarte was a mother goddess, a mother creator, a goddess of love, a nurturer, a protector. But she was also, she had duality. She also was a goddess of war and a goddess of strategy. So she could be loving and nurturing and soft and an empath and kind and compassionate, but she could also be extremely fierce and protective, and she was about justice and holding accountability. And when I read that, it resonated so deeply with me because I hold that duality. For people who know me well, for people who have never been a threat to me, they've only experienced that compassionate, nurturing side. For people who have provoked me or harmed me or threatened me, they have seen the goddess of war come out. And that's not, immature, revenge type of energy. It's a very fierce energy of, I will not allow this to happen to me. And in fact, I'm going to hold my villain accountable. I'm going to hold the mirror up to them. And I'm going to reflect back exactly what they're doing to me so they can fully understand the consequences of that. So she was the consort of Baal. And Bale is in the news lately, which I never anticipated. A couple years ago, when I started reading about him, I never would have anticipated that he'd be coming out in the Epstein files or like in mainstream media, or that Iran would be burning statues of Bale on their media. I would have never been able to predict that, but that's what's happening. And it's happening for a reason, because Bale as one of the and when I refer to dark entity with Baal, I do mean evil, not a good dark, a negative dark, a narcissistic dark energy of power and control and a desire to suppress and bind and restrict others in order for him to rise up and feel powerful. So he's like one of the original, he's one of the OG narcissists on this planet, and Astarte is one of the OG original empaths. So that relationship between the narcissist and the empath actually go back to Baal and Astarte. So even though they were consorts, it didn't mean they worked out. Didn't mean that they worked out, didn't mean that they agreed. They did not see eye to eye. And Baal was jealous of Astarte, jealous of her following, jealous of her travels, jealous of the multiple temples that she was erecting and her followers were erecting all over the world, too, by the way. It was not just in Mesopotamia. Um, or not just in Canaan, but actually, in fact, I believe that she had temples here. I think there's ample evidence of Astarte's existence in New England specifically. And so she was thriving and she was rising and she was powerful and beautiful and had a lot of admiration. Well, Baal, he did not have his own temple yet. Baal had to convince Astarte's sister, Anat, who's also another badass goddess of war, to then persuade their father, El, to allow Baal to have his own temple. So finally, Baal got his little temper tantrum granted. And then, now this is my theory, everything that I've read. So King Solomon, now this is in literature, this is printed and documented, that King Solomon mastered binding spells. He mastered binding demons. And I'm doing air quotes of the demons because Astarte was one of the first deities that King Solomon bound. She clearly was not a demon, but was demonized. One of the first goddesses to be demonized. Probably Lilith was the first, right? But
Yes.
Astarte was definitely in the early timeline of bondage there and being bound. So my theory is that Baal influenced King Solomon because King Solomon mastered binding. It was said that an archangel granted him a ring to summons and bind benevolent spirits against their will and to take command over them. Um, and I don't think so. The story says Archangel Michael. That's never resonated as truth with me. I really think the influence was Baal, Baal or Moloch, whatever you want to call him. And he was the one influencing King Solomon because for this narcissistic, sociopathic, power hungry patriarchy to come forward the way they have, for them to spread like the parasite that they are, for the demons to run amok as they are modern day. The only way that that could take place is if you removed the protectors, if you bound the
Mhm.
ones that would not allow for that. And Astarte for sure would not allow for trafficking, for grape, for violation. Those things Astarte would stand firm on, and she would ensure consequences, karma, and justice. And so she had to be removed, for Baal and the patriarchy and Solomon, for them to take over and invade and hijack the way they had to bind and remove and suppress more powerful entities than themselves. That's the only way. So
Mhm.
they're operating off of stolen power. But it does go
Mhm.
back to the dynamic between the narcissist and the empath. And everything I read about Astarte, it just lit my soul on fire. She was fiery. She embodied sexuality. She had no shame around sexuality. She danced, she did acrobatics. She did magic. She was a sorceress. She was a healer. She loved herbs. Like, just everything I read about her, I'm like, oh my God, me too, me too. Like, I want to meet this Astarte. She'd be my BFF. We'd have so much fun together. And so I just adore her. And so since I started working with her, some major, major transformations, the biggest transformation being I went from a very sensitive empath that was very easily harmed by a narcissist to a dark empath of, you want to fuck with me? Go ahead and see what happens now. Like, let's alchemize and transmute that. And in fact, I'm going to rise up in the face of adversity and become more powerful and more badass than ever before. And that's what Astarte has taught me, is to break free from that bondage, to break free from the binding, and to break apart any and all forms of narcissistic manipulation, and to be able to see it clearly and identify it. So she is just a wealth of inspiration, I'd have to say. Her duality, that spectrum where she can move on any point in that spectrum depending on what is being presented before her. So that is
Mm.
my little introduction to Astarte. And the
Mm.
other thing I want to say too is, through my research, what I learned is Astarte, Aset, Isis, Ishtar, Inanna all may very well be the same goddess, with different names depicted from different timelines and different cultures. But I did read multiple books and articles and come across multiple videos that linked these goddesses together. So I think that they may have been the same. Um, so yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
a little bit
Mm.
about Astarte.
Mm. I love how you shared some of like her origin story as well as how it applies into modern world, because ultimately, that is the wisdom that we're striving to bring forward in these communications with each other and online. When you were talking about the Solomon seals, yes, I fully agree with you. My intuition is also, tingles when you speak of Bell hijacking um, Solomon's energy field and masquerading as an angel of light. And because Solomon was already working with the angels of light, he didn't have any reason to doubt. And that's part of a deeper manipulation that we are still seeing play out in today's world, where a lot of quote unquote people believe that they are channeling someone of the light, but they're really not.
Oh my God, yeah.
And this is one of the teachings that comes in through another dark mother goddess, who we'll be diving to here in a few episodes from now, the Morrigan. She teaches discernment.
Mhm.
Whoo! You don't want to fuck with Lady Morrigan. But like coming coming back to Astarte, like, yes, that absolutely. I love that you continue talking about the binding of the protectors and the warriors, because as a warrior woman myself, like, I have never been able to stay silent in the face of bullies and injustice. Like, no, that is not allowed. I could not see myself ever just letting that happen on even a global scale. And yes, Lilith was the first dark goddess to unbind, and we will also be diving into Lilith here soon, so stay tuned for that episode. So, when it comes to Astarte, you're talking about the narcissist empath dynamic, and what that brings me into is using power with intelligence,
Mhm.
not impulse.
Strategy, strategy. Mhm.
Right. It's like learning how to use personal power, not as manipulation, as embodied tactic.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's where the distortion starts to come in, right? That's where the manipulation of the darkness comes in. That's where the power struggles start to come in, when we deny the truth because it's uncomfortable.
Right, right.
And another way that the binding of this goddess has played out in the collective is reactive aggression,
Mhm.
because there's no guidance on how to use righteous rage. And rage is important because it shows us that something is wrong and we need corrective action immediately. Like we need triage. We need the nurses, the surgeons, the fucking lab techs. Like we need a full assessment of what is going on with the situation right here, right now.
Absolutely.
And especially Astarte, you've been talking about Masonic influence and unbinding and the downloads you get. And I want to dismantle for a quick moment the word politics. Poly, many, ticks, blood sucking parasites. Like they haven't even tried that hard to hide what they are. They are literally sucking the blood life force of humanity through the
Mhm.
political agendas, through the systems and the checks and balances and all these little silly plays. Because
Theatrics. Mhm.
right, because truth doesn't actually need any of that,
Right.
right? Truth doesn't hide. It doesn't need a mask. It doesn't need a voting system. Like truth lives within, right? But the truth is that life is only ever one going to want to choose life unless there is intentional distortion in the field.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I would love for you to speak more into, especially because it is so relevant to the current timeline, the parasites that are being cleared out, the politics that are being sifted through. Shortly before we got on this live call, you and I were having a conversation about the EGO, integrity and intimacy, right? And Astarte is a goddess of love and
Mhm.
sexuality.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, how does that tie in for you specifically within your own life and experiences with your clients? Because a lot of people who come in for mental counseling are experiencing an internal power struggle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, so to correlate this dynamic between Vale and Astarte and the systems to the collective that I serve as a counselor, what I see is loads of entrapment. Just so many forms of entrapment and binding, financial binding, medical binding. People are bound to the medical system. They're bound to psychopharmacology. They're bound to big pharma. They're bound in so many ways and in unhealthy relationships. So many people
Mhm.
are stuck and trapped in these horrific relationships that they
Mhm.
cannot get out of. Whether that be they can't live on their own, they can't afford an apartment on their own, or their mentality is not strong enough to believe that they can do it on their own. So there's a lot of disempowerment
Mhm.
among the collective, and I feel that it goes back to Bale, wanting to bind and suppress and keep people kind of codependent on these systems. And I think that what I'm seeing with my clients is more fearlessness, right? And like with a parasite, once you realize how to remove a tick, right? A little peppermint oil, a little flame, some tweezers, right? Like once you are aware that the tick is there and you know how to properly remove it, you're going to remove it. And so, like, we just have not had the awareness that these parasites are sucking our life force, but there's this
Mhm.
awakening happening. So, what I'm seeing with
Mhm.
my clients are people are becoming so much more aware of the
Mhm.
truth, aware of the dysfunction, aware of the broken systems, aware of there is an intention to keep people suppressed. Teenagers are waking up to that. I have teenagers in high school that I see for counseling who are like, school is a prison. They want us to be like prison mates. And they'll even compare it to prison. Like I've had teenagers say, "Do you know that prisoners have more outdoor time than students? We got like 10 minutes for recess, like 20 minutes to eat lunch and 10 minutes to go outside." Um, and prisoners
Mhm.
have like 2 hours a day of outdoor time. And so there's more. I'm seeing like an increase of awareness. And
Mhm.
with that awareness is coming like this ferocity and fearlessness, and like we're done with the bullshit. You know, there's a song from the 80s, Twisted Sister. We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore. And like,
Anymore.
yes. And if you watch that video, which I recommend people go on YouTube and type in Twisted Sister, we're not going to take it. Watch the intro to that video. The father is a glaring narcissist, and he represents the narcissism embedded in our society that tells people how to be, how to act, how to dress, what to eat, how to sit, right? When you start
Mhm.
to dismantle our society and all these societal constructs, some of the societal constructs are absolutely batshit crazy.
Mhm.
And what I'm seeing in the collective is people are waking up to this, and with that awareness, they're starting to say, no, I'm not partaking in this anymore. I'm not participating in this anymore. I had a 14-year-old client show me her text message to her narcissistic father, and she totally told him off. She held him accountable. She did not allow his manipulation tactics to work. She called out his manipulation tactics, but the entire time remained calm, cool, and collected, did not insult him, wasn't unhinged, wasn't unruly, wasn't even disrespectful. And that's the Astarte energy that's coming forward in this collective, like the strategy, right?
Mhm.
Strategy of
Interesting.
warfare. Strategy.
Mhm.
We are in a psychological warfare. There is physical war happening on this planet,
Mhm.
yes. And there is strategy for that type of warfare. But the collective right now is in spiritual, psychological warfare on so many fronts and so many levels. And what I'm seeing with the collective is this awakening and more fierceness and fearlessness to confront it and to look at
Mhm.
it right in the eye and say, fuck off, fuck way the fuck off. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, and
Mhm.
and that didn't exist 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years. I mean, there's always been like rebellious people within the collective, but the collective itself, as far as becoming as rebellious as it is now, what we're seeing, I really think it's
It wasn't.
unprecedented.
Yeah, it wasn't like this 10 years ago. It wasn't even like this 3 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it wasn't.
It's like blown up in the last year and a half, and I'm just like, whew, finally your girl can take a rest because
Mhm.
somebody else can pick up the baton for a moment. I want to check in with a subscriber here who's asking a question. Hala Madrid saying hi. She's
Hello.
asking, like Gojo and Tsukina from Jujutsu Kaisen. Do you know this TV show or movie that this person's talking about?
I do not. No, but it sounds cool though.
It sounds really cool with the binding vows. So I'm not familiar. Allison isn't familiar, but let's touch that real quick. A
Yeah.
lot of movies and TV shows out there do speak a lot of
100%.
truth,
100%.
disguised as entertainment. So
Yes.
if it feels like resonant to you and you are watching a movie, a music video, even like kids shows, they especially love to hide in kids shows. Start to notice, read between the lines.
Yeah.
Notice what the characters are saying versus what they are doing.
Yeah.
Notice that notice the emotions. Notice what you feel in your gut when you are watching something, when you are listening to something. And when you feel that discrepancy, it's because the body knows before the mind interprets.
Mhm.
This is
100%.
what modern science has been proving. It's like the body knows, the heart is picking up the signals. The heart understands the frequency of the energy that's coming in. So you might be hearing something that says, "Hey, happy kids, let's go to Blue Mountain." And inside you're like, I just want to turn this off. Like, this doesn't feel good. It's because there is that subliminal manipulation coding coming through that your body intuitively knows.
Mhm.
So if something feels uncomfortable, if your children start crying in a show, don't force them to watch and listen to it. Start listening more to the body. And this is what the binding has done. It has, it has, the binding was of the goddess, yes, but that has domino affected into the binding of the goddess frequency that lives within all woman.
Mm-hmm. And men.
The
Men were bound too. Mm-hmm.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we just got a $2 tip from this guy named Rooster that says they cook you food with period blood and spirit cookies.
Oh wow.
What
Okay.
is
Well,
what is
thank you.
that?
Okay, wait. Before we move on to Rooster, I want to go back to Hala Madrid about that show. So I guarantee you there is truth in that show. Thank you for mentioning it. Now I want to go check it out. But a lot of anime has
Yes.
truth in it. They put the
Mhm.
truth in what they call fiction, and they teach mistruth and what they call education and science. And
Mhm.
there is a movie about the binding, which I'd never watched the full movie, but I remember when I started watching it, I like literally fell off my couch. I like could not believe it. It's called The Monkey King, and there's this god, the Monkey King, who gets unbound by a monk. A monk finds out that he was bound, and she unbinds him, and he comes out of his binding, and he learns that he's been bound for 1,000 years, and that demons now rule the earth. And I'm like, that is literally what happened. Like, the good ones have been bound, so the demons are running amok. That's why there's so many evil people in positions of power. That would never have happened if the binding didn't happen. There would have 100% been intervention. Okay, so I had to say that. But going on a Rooster, I think you're talking about the spirit cooking with like Lady Gaga and Marina Abramovic. Um, the Hollywood spirit cooking, and like the Kardashians using their period blood. I saw actually a TikTok earlier about like the period blood masks that they put on their face. But yeah, so there is some of that like within Hollywood. You'll come across that. Um, but I don't know that they cook food with period blood. I've never heard that, but I'm not I would anything is possible at this point.
Anything is possible. And I want to touch a little bit on the menstrual blood because
Mhm.
there is so much distortion around
Yes.
the power of a woman's blood. Okay, a woman intentionally connecting with her menstrual blood to heal her feminine body, to heal her matrilineal line, to connect with her feminine wisdoms is not evil or dark magic. It's simply a practice that has been attempted to be eliminated because there is power in blood. There are stem cells in blood. Yes, it's the uterine wall shedding. But if you look at the cell of shedding under a microscope, there is a lot of life in that. So let's get that cleared out of the field. The power of menstrual blood and the power of connecting intentionally from purity, from wholeness, from a place of love and empowerment with that feminine energy. Putting blood on the face is great for the skin. I do it. People ask me, your skin looks fabulous. I'm like, yeah, I woke up, I showered, I look great. I don't use makeup. Like I use my own stem cells to heal my skin. I paint with my menstrual blood. I have been doing that for a few years. No, it doesn't smell. And I was a phlebotomist for 10 years. I am pre med if anyone's concerned about contamination. And oh my gosh, that's another program. So clear that out of the field. Now, on the other side of that, and this is an attempt of the darkness to distort the power of sacred blood. Men, and I have spoken about, blood practices in other videos, both with Allison and on my own. Men, if you want to bring a blood offering, if you cut yourself and you wipe your tissue, bring that back to the land. You don't have to gouge yourself with a knife and drip blood all over the place. Use what naturally wants to be cleared as an offering of life back to life. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if somebody is intentionally using blood to manipulate and distort, if you are lying and secretive about your practices, that's where the problem is. That's where the distortion is. Secrecy has been destroying our world. It is in transparency that we grow. And I feel like this is one of the teachings that Astarte brings, is like being transparent with ourselves about our power, both where we are empowered with our power and where we are struggling. But with that, being discerning about where we share our quote unquote weaknesses. Again, tactical awareness, strategic sovereignty,
Mhm.
embodied decisiveness. So that's what I have to say to that comment, because I don't really know what that very strange comment was about. But thanks for the tip. That was really lovely. Keep them coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that so as you were talking about blood and offering and the distortions, a couple things that I wanted to mention is one, I acquired a history of Freemasonry book from from actually it was like 1915 or 1920 it was published. And there is a whole section in that that talks about ancient rituals and ancient ceremonial magic being literally the word they use is corroded. That is the word that's used in the book, corroded and contaminated and perverted. So
Yes.
these ancient practices and bringing back the Masons and King Solomon is that they essentially stole, right? Like pirates stole these practices, inverted them, and used them for nefarious gain, the opposite of what they were originally intended for, and then gatekeep the knowledge and present a totally false narrative to the collective. So the
Mhm.
collective is completely disarmed. You teach the collective magic isn't real, right? It's only fairy tale and make believe, and it's in the kids' shows, but Harry Potter, but it's not real. Well, you have an entire population of humans that are completely disarmed because if you're under the belief it's not real, then you're certainly not aware or concerned that anything dark or negative could be done to you. And so then, therefore, you have no way to protect yourself against baneful magic and you have no way to remove it. Right. Like, so as soon as I became aware of the binding and Astarte and King Solomon, I started fiercely doing these incantations to break the binding. And I do rituals and I go to graveyards and cemeteries and Masonic buildings and governmental buildings and all around, all up and down the East Coast. I have done this cleansing of this
Mhm.
inversion to break the binding, and it is working. Motherfuckers, it's working. It's not only working on me, it's working on I'm seeing ample
Mhm.
evidence of it.
Yeah.
But back
And
to like, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to quickly point in there, while you've been working on the East Coast, I was on a 10-year mission on the West Coast. And so, like, we were literally working parallel to each other this whole time, and then our worlds naturally collided.
Oh,
So I've worked the Pacific. I worked the Pacific Northwest, like all the way Canada to fucking Mexico tip border.
that's
I have
amazing.
spilled my blood. I have spilled my hair, my nails, my spit, crystals, like
DNA.
whatever was asked of me. This is not acceptable. We aren't doing this shit. And so both the East Coast and the West Coast, and that's why now we're seeing that acceleration happening of the unbinding of the collective frequency.
Yep. Yep. And with that too, I just for anyone listening who's like, ew, like that is your DNA. Any part of you, whether it be your hair, a tear from your eye, saliva,
Mhm.
whatever comes from your body holds your DNA. And your
Mhm.
DNA with epigenetics, from what we know, and this is only what our science community has disclosed, so it could be more, but we can hold up to 14 generations worth of knowledge in our DNA. That is information of our ancestors. Our Akashic records is in our blood. So before the inversion and the hijacking and the contamination of these practices, they were done with pure intent as offering. And where it got contaminated is men, sorry, men, but yeah, men, okay. Men, they don't produce their own womb blood to do these offerings and magic with. So they had to find blood from another being. They're not going to keep cutting themselves, every ritual, that it's not enough. So they had to end the life of an animal and use that blood. And so that brings me into like Baal, Moloch, Yahweh. These deities were worshipped, okay, back in ancient Canaan and back in ancient Mesopotamia or back in ancient Israel. They were worshipped by erecting standing stones. This is very important because I want everyone listening to start paying attention to war memorials in your town, wherever you go. There is a war memorial in every single town and every single city across the United States. And they are standing stones with inscriptions. These were war gods or storm gods, and the way that the patriarchy worshiped them was to spill blood of a child, of another human, of an animal. So war is the ultimate sacrifice to these deities. That's why the United States is so heavily involved with war, has been since the founding fathers. Who were the founding fathers? They were all Masons. Yep, they were. George Washington, right? Like they were Masons and they founded this country on spilt blood as Yahweh, Baal, Moloch offerings. Every war memorial. So in ancient days, they worshiped them with a standing stone with an inscription and sigils or sigillums. And when you look at a war memorial, they have the circle. Every, whether it be Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, they all have a seal. It's a double circle, which is a Solomonic seal. If you look at Solomon's seals, it's a circle within a circle. Every single United States military seal is a circle within a circle. They are Solomonic seals etched in standing stones with the names of the people who died listed as the sacrificial offering. I went to Gettysburg on a spiritual mission and I was like, this is one giant Baal altar. This is one giant Baal offering. This, all of the standing stones with all the Masonic symbols. And that is where I'm going to bring Ma'at into this. That is where I saw Ma'at with the blindfold on for the first time, because they have the goddess of Lady Liberty, goddess of justice, on all of these erected stones. And she's got the blindfold on with the scales and the sword. Well, we know Ma'at was depicted with scales and a sword, but she did not have a blindfold on. She has to see clearly to bring justice. What is this
She didn't even need to use
blindfold?
her eyes.
She doesn't even need eyes, truly, but like the blindfold, when I first saw that in Gettysburg and I was on this path of learning about the binding and the dark magic, I was like, "Oh my god, they blindfolded the goddess of justice so she can't see what's happening. So she can't bring the justice." But you know what? The blindfold's coming off. We're ripping
Oh
it
yeah,
off.
she is fully online, and
Mhm.
body is just taking a moment to recalibrate.
Mhm, mhm. Yep. But going, so going back to the war memorials and the blood sacrifice and the offerings and bringing that to modern day of the Epstein files and what's in the files, that is basically Astarte's arch enemy or arch nemesis, whatever you want to say. Baal and Astarte are oil and water. They do not go well together. And Astarte has been bound for probably over 1,000 years, and she is breaking through that binding now. And her return, it's going to be chaotic, it's going to be messy, because everyone has become so, even though these systems are so corrupt and dysfunctional and broken, it's what people know, it's what people are familiar with. And so there's going to be a huge overhaul of all of these social constructs. Things are going to have to like crumble and literally burn to dust before they are rebuilt and reestablished with balance and order.
Mhm. And Astarte really also brings that teaching of like not every battle is yours, but sometimes you have to choose to step into that battle that isn't yours because everything affects everyone. And this like whole construct of like not my problem is a problem.
The complacency. That's what's
Yes,
happening.
the complacency.
And
Mhm.
that has been why another reason, not just the binding, but the complacency. In addition to binding spells, there's blinding spells, oblivion spells. When I started researching Solomonic talisman and Solomonic seals, Drasmine, I almost had like like a stroke because I was so amped up with anger and frustration and horror, absolute sheer horror of every incantation I read written by King Solomon has been manifested, is being manifested now, and it's not good. One of the spells is to inflict poverty and lack onto
Mhm.
your enemy. And who would be the enemy, right? Who would be the enemy of Baal? Who would be the enemy of King Solomon?
Mhm.
Us.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
We are the enemy, right? Because we're the good
Yeah.
ones. We're the empaths. We're the ones that they want to dispose. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
but
want
like,
to I want to go into just a little bit like these systems, right? Like yes, the systems are broken,
mhm.
but they're designed just enough to keep people addicted into it.
Well, that's it. There's the codependency. Hmm.
And truly inviting everyone to recognize that codependency that
Hmm.
you have inherited. Love is nourished in reciprocity. And when there is no reciprocity, love becomes survival. Period. You're either in survival or you're in love. You cannot have both. Love is not survival.
Hmm.
We survive because we want to love and evolve. But when the mother and the goddess and the feminine aspect of things was removed from the room, that nurturing quality, that understanding of the natural law of balance was
Yeah.
also removed with it. And so, yes, the sacrifices with the animals came in, but there was no regulation,
Right.
just an increase of power and then that addiction to the power. And then when the animals are starting to run out, like there's a reason that there's a lot of animals, very beautiful exotic animals that are gone from this planet right now, that are trophies. They weren't just killed for sport. That's another ritualistic sacrifice, the way that men go out with their hunting spears or their rifles, and they do their whole like dance thing. It's all part of this demonic interference that people think is just their hobby.
Hmm.
It's not
Hmm.
just a motherfucking hobby. Hunting for sport is not hobby. It is evil. It is a destructive use of life force energy. Stop supporting hunters. This is the way we start breaking the spell, is by refusing to stay silent in our inner circles that allow this kind of violation of life to continue even in areas that we might consider play.
Hmm. 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 Yeah. And with that, I want to remind people of how very powerful we truly are. And how I know that as fact is because there would be no way the patriarchy would put such exorbitant effort over centuries of time to bind us, restrict us, limit us, silence us. Whether you look at the witch trials of the 1600s and Scotland and Germany and Salem, Massachusetts, you look at how many women were burned at the stake, hung. In Salem, Mass, they were pressed between two stones. That was a that was a way that they killed witches. Press them in between stones, put them in dungeons, drown them, burn them, all, I mean, just everything that you could think of. And then that morphed into the 1800s with the insane asylums, right? All these gigantic brick castle looking insane asylums all across the country that were doing frontal lobe lobotomies, electroshock therapy, ice plunging, all sorts of like torture and torment and mind control experiments. And now modern day, right? How are they doing it modern day? It's through the media, through
Mhm.
movies,
Mhm.
through financial binding, through medical binding, getting people hooked into the medical system, the criminal system, the military system. And it just goes on and on. The public
The,
education
the
system.
Grammys,
the
the
It
Grammys
just goes on
is
and on and
just
on.
is yeah, the Grammys, the whole like Hollywood thing is just the Hunger Games.
Yes.
Here are the elite echelons, and there are the peasants who are struggling to feed a family of 8 with $200 a month. But let's pay $700 for a tube of lipstick.
Right.
And then you sit there in your homes eating the packet of $2.50 chips that you got from the gas station, hyping up your Grammy best dressed person. You are perpetuating the distortion.
Yep.
Turn the television off. Stop glorifying this perversion and letting your children also participate in that.
And another thing too with Astarte that's going to return is the ability to embrace sensuality and sexuality without shame, without judgment, without
Mhm.
guilt, right? Without
Mhm.
defilement, without
Yes.
degrading.
Mm.
And that's another thing going back to Baal and Astarte. Like back in the day of Astarte, they had pleasure temples. Okay. That's what they were called, a pleasure temple. And those pleasure temples, it was like intermodal, multimodality. They had all sorts of healing modalities, but they also did have like lap dances and acrobatics, like pole dancing. That goes back to Astarte. She was doing shit like that, but it wasn't considered dirty or gross. Like there wasn't this like layer of dirt placed upon it. And
It
sexuality.
was yeah, it was worshiping beauty. It
Mm-hmm.
was honoring the body of the woman that has the power to turn souls into freaking humans.
To bring
Like
spirit into matter. To bring
to bring
spirit
spirit
into,
into matter. Like,
yeah,
of
portals.
course, like the concept, right? Like you cannot, and I've said this before and I'll say this again, you cannot clone spirit, which is why their tactics have been rapidly backfiring.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more they attempt to mess with life source energy, the faster it's backfiring on them,
Yep.
right? And part of reclaiming our power is owning our sexuality,
Yes.
owning our sensuality. With
Mm-hmm.
you were talking about how magic is real for you and you've seen it in your life. I've seen it in my life because I am the first woman in my generation. I am an Indian Chicana woman. I am the first one who is unmarried at my age, who broke the spell. I was
Crazy.
promised to an Arabian man at the age of 3.
That's
At
crazy.
the age of 3. And because of the Dark Mother and her love for me and my willingness to receive her, I was able to eventually escape that hell prison. Right. So it's like, what do we allow in the name of keeping the peace?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's where we start losing our power.
100%. And the reclamation of that power is another reason why things are backfiring because we're too
Yes.
aware now. We're too aware. Like we're remembering we're powerful and we're breaking through the blinding spell. So their manipulation tactics are very visible. And one of the things I love about going on TikTok is scrolling and watching people dismantle the propaganda, like playing a clip of like the news and being like, what we have here, this is gaslighting, this is that, this is like they're listing out tactics. There's so much education now on narcissism. Like I liked recently a couple of videos on narcissism, and now my FYP is riddled with
Mhm.
content creators, and but their content is epic. It's like
Mhm.
there's so much information getting flooded out there to help people be empowered and reclaim what was stolen from them and what has been bound. And
Mhm.
also, like, going back to the sexuality, and we talked prior to getting on this live about like the porn industry. Like, that is Baal energy. That is some
Mhm.
Yahweh. That is some Moloch. That is defilement. That is objectification. That is
Mhm.
degenerate. Like, the goddesses are turning over in their binding tombs. Like, what the fuck is that? Bullshit.
Yes.
Like, going back to the pleasure temples, goddesses were teaching men how to bring pleasure to the female body. Like, there are
Mhm.
activation points, there's massage points, there's
Mhm.
meridian lines, there's internal energy flowing, external energy. Like, oh, it's so complex. There's so much more than just
There's the like creating the setting to bring the goddess into. There's the care that comes afterward. Holy shit. The absence of post-sex care in today's world, like people, a quickie should be like an hour. And that's bare minimum. Okay? A quickie is an hour bare minimum. If your quickie is less than an hour, you got to really start checking in about whether you're experiencing true intimacy and pleasure. Because what's probably happening is you're just running away from a problem, using the dopamine band aid, and perpetuating, regurgitating the cycle. I'm just going to say it like
yeah.
it is.
No, it's true. It's true. It's true. And like, I do like tapping into the Akashic records. I have memories of these temples. I have memories of what once existed, and it was so much more epic and so much more wholesome and holistic and multi-layered than what we see
Mhm,
now, you know?
mhm.
um
Yeah.
I'm
So
I'm
let's bring
for
it. Yeah, I would love to like, since we're closing in on the hour, I'd love to start bringing it into like more integration, power practices, like ultimately we must take charge of power because if we don't protect our power, it will be taken. But when we protect our power, then we start being able to sustain our own life force energy.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. And something too, like, I would love to encourage anyone who's watching this to do. If any aspect of this episode resonates with you with the Astarte and the unbinding, I invite you to do your own unbinding ritual where you write
Mhm.
an incantation. You can call upon Astarte to guide you. You can say, like, Astarte, come be with me now. Guide me through the process of unbinding my mind, body, and spirit. Because I did find there is a triple chain spell to bind the mind, body, and spirit. So, unbinding all aspects of yourself and coming back into your power, whether Astarte resonates or not, we've all been placed under the binding on some level at some point in some lifetime. So to
Mhm.
actively work on the unbinding.
And with that said, mind, body, spirit, I want to also quickly point out that the heart is not included in the spell. And why is that? Because the heart is divine source energy. It cannot be bound. And so this is how a lot of breakthroughs happens. We have an emotional experience that then shatters the spell. This is why sometimes until somebody goes through something that like jolts them out of their like inertia, it's because the heart is a sovereign that
Mhm,
cannot be bound.
mhm,
It cannot happen the way that quantum law is. And so I really want to bring that to our audience because I've heard this with a lot of my clients that I've worked with. It's like they're like, I feel like I can't breathe. My heart feels tight. Yeah, your heart feels tight because you are not allowing yourself to express the emotion, not because your heart is bound.
I love that. That's amazing. And one other thing that I would love to, whoops, I almost just like tipped over the whole desk. Speaking of how powerful we are, I know, geez, I'm like flipping furniture over here. The other thing that I would love to, invite anyone listening to do is to connect with Astarte, because she is one of the OG goddesses. She's one of the original. She goes back to ancient Canaan, ancient Mesopotamia. And she was a creator goddess. She created a lot of different plants and animals, I learned. And so just honoring her and bringing her back into this realm as a creator being, I think that her energy is really needed right now to bring restoration and balance and justice.
Mm, mm. Aho, aho. Whew. Well, you, Queen, have powerful incantations. So before we go into our grounding and closing nervous system integration practice, do you feel that you have a transmission from this powerful goddess to assist our collective today? And
I
I will
do.
bring in energy work to support with integration and sealing into the nervous system.
I do. I do. I do. I'm ready. It's ready to go. Okay, so here we go. I now call on the powers vested within me and calling on the goddess Astarte and the dragons, the protectors, the warriors of this realm to return and assist the collective with breaking any and all binding spells, sigils, sigillums, or seals, talismans done over the centuries to limit, restrict, or inflict any form of torture, suffering, blinding spells, anything at all at any point throughout humanity to put the masses into limitation and suffering. I now implore those spells are broken and shattered to the fullest extent. And dragons, breathe your fire on these spells and torch them and incinerate them to ash. May we, the collective, may we, the innocent, be fully free on all levels, all layers, and all dimensions, and all lifetimes. May this be the lifetime where we break free from the hold of the evil energies and reclaim our power and remember who we are. And may order be brought to the chaos. May consequences and karma be brought to the wicked. May justice be served. And may we live in true peace and harmony once again. And so it is.
Mm. Let's take a few breaths here to allow that frequency to settle into every cell, every fiber, every tendon, every ligament, every organ, fully settling in. Deep breath. Place that one hand on your chest and the other on your belly, feet uncrossed. Allow yourself to fill, open, and expand. And as you exhale, do so slowly through the mouth as if you're fogging a mirror. One more deep breath, receiving it all in. And exhale through the mouth. Deeper breath, inhale, allowing yourself to take up space here in this moment. And as you exhale, maybe make some sound. Yes, breathing in, receiving that breath of life. Exhale, allowing yourself to take up space, bringing in some movement, feeling the aliveness of your being, unbinding yourself from the rigidity of just sitting, tense, holding, bracing, just breathing in and bringing that movement out. Continue to breathe life into your body and clear any tension. Speak life into your presence. I am here. I am safe. I am allowed to feel deeply and not move to fix it. Breathe that in and slow down the movements. Gently returning to the body, softening the breath, returning to sacred sovereign center. Continuing to breathe softly as you return in your wholeness. If anything was stirred tonight, you do not need to understand it yet. Integration happens through rest, water, breath, nature, and time. Take one more slow, deep breath here with me, with us. Feel the weight of your existence held by Mother Earth. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome back.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. You're so good at that. I love it. I feel great. I
Sheesh,
feel
you know,
great.
for someone who does nervous system integration, I would hope I know how to calm the nervous system down.
You do great. You do great work, sister. Great
Thanks.
work. And I do want to just let people know too that I do have a Break the Binding playlist on my TikTok at DragonJedi44. And a lot of my recent content is about breaking the Masonic spells. Because in my research, I did learn that they have done quite a bit of spell work on the masses through what they call ceremonies in public, like laying the cornerstone of a building. So that type of
Like
thing.
every single Super Bowl.
Oh my God. We could go on. We could go on. We could go on. We should probably do a whole other episode on all of that. But yeah, just break those spells, break them. Once you're aware of it and you can rebuke them, rescind them, break them, remove them, and free yourself. But do feel free to check out my content. A lot of my content is an offering to people for free. I'm not charging anything, I'm not asking for anything. I just want people to have some inspiration. So I have specific incantations written out, like laid over the video. So if you need any guidance on that, please do take a look.
And if you need any integration support, because this is the other thing, and this is actually a download that I got like literally 20 minutes before I went live, and it was came through another priestess, is like the collective energy that we're in right now is a horseshoe shit show.
I love that horseshoe shit show. That's true. That could be a bumper sticker. I'm going to design it. That's sweet.
And it's like that energy, it's
Mhm.
like we're all in the cup, right? It's like the high, the cup. So it's like we're trying to get out of it, but we keep slipping back into the shit, right?
Yep.
And so it's really important to recognize that as you start reclaiming, remembering, unbinding, clearing, you're going to want to feel tempted to slip back.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that's where someone like myself can come in and help with rewiring the nervous system so that the mind has that ability to choose differently. I work with the nervous systems, Allison works with the mental systems, which is also something I do. And then there are other many coaches and guides out there. Really trust your discernment and intuition on who you work with. But I am here offering deep integration support for nervous system repair because it is a process that takes time and does not happen overnight. And most of my clients work with me for at least several months, if not a few years.
It's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
We're doing stellar work, sister. And I do love that we're on the opposite ends of the country. And one day we are going to come together in person. And when that happens, it's going to be quite the explosion of energy, synergy.
Mhm.
So it'll be
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, we know, and people will soon know.
Yes.
So thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. Thank you, beloved ones, for being here, for your presence, for your participation, whether you joined us live or caught the replay. Thank you to those who commented. Thank you again for that wonderful little tip there. Well appreciated and received. Thank you for listening. Thank you for weaving your energy in the space. Know that this conversation meets you exactly where you are in this current now and when you are meant to receive it. As we close tonight, remember, you do not need to carry everything alone. In fact, we are not designed to. And you definitely do not need to resolve what was opened all at once or even right now. Leave behind what is not yours. Focus on your peace. This is the Dark Mother Daughters. I am Lady Drasmin.
And I am DragonJedi44.
And until next time, stay close to your body, your truth, and your breath. Take care, everyone. Much love.
Much love. Have a great night.